Hello, and welcome to the Modern Romantic Podcast, where we celebrate romanticism through creative outlets and passionate people doing incredible things. To celebrate the fact that my partner and I have gone through all of the Lord of the Rings films from start to finish, all three films, I am now and forevermore Lord of the Rinse. Hi, I'm Trey.
Yay! You have
Which is
no idea how happy I am.
and that is the joyous sounds of my co-host Emily, the Brave. Hi, Emily.
Hello. You had made my day. That is so great. I'm glad you finished them and got through them. What did you think?
Okay, so I like them first and foremost. Um, I think it would have made more of an impact when I was younger, having watched them. But now, as a 30-year old man, I don't think it had quite the same impact. But I do like them. Um, I feel like Emily's face is deflating the more I keep talking, so I'm just gonna stop.
No, it's fine. No, be honest. It's okay here.
I really like the storytelling. I thought the costumes really told the story. There were so many details in literally everything. Seth and I are moving to Rivendell for sure. We already have decided that. So we're going to find a place that looks remarkably like that, with a nice waterfall feature behind us,
A
and we
waterfall
will move there.
feature.
A waterfall feature, super common. Um, but
They're like
overall,
everywhere.
yeah, they're totally everywhere. But yeah, I really liked it. I think my favorite was the first one because it just had a lot of magic to it. But I really felt the weight of the movies officially in the third one. So that one, when
Sure.
they got spoiler warning for a potentially almost 20-year movie, they get back to the Shire, and that is such a heartwarming and heart wrenching moment. So, yeah, that's my thought.
Okay. Well, I'll just be happy that you at least watched it. So now all the references I give, you'll understand now.
Yes, and now a lot of Seth's jokes make a lot more sense because before they just went woo like a 747.
You're like, my precious. And you're like, why are you saying it that way?
uh, yes, but the lovely person that we have on our podcast tonight has a lot to share with us. Much like Lord of the Rings has shared with many people, this lovely guest has shared so much with countless audiences. So, Emily, would you do us the honors of introducing our lovely guest tonight?
Yes, today we're chatting with someone who has been known as an actress, a singer, dancer, a sportscaster, and now a historical fiction author. Sorry.
I can't keep a job.
Her talents and passions clearly know no bounds, and we are in full support of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, queens and kings, the lovely and multi-talented Lisa DiVida.
And I never saw the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm sorry.
Uh,
But I
that's-
read the books when they first came out.
That counts.
Ooh.
That
That
counts.
tells you how long I've been around.
I'm not sure when they came out, but now I'm going to look
A
that up.
while.
I think I'm a little jealous of that, though, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they were pretty cool.
And so, what did you think of them? You heard my take. What was your take?
Well, I remember very little of it now, but no, I loved it. The whole world of it just swept me away. The whole creativity, the mood, the everything. That was great. And he had some spiritual messages, as I recall.
Tolkien. Well, he was like friends with C.S. Lewis, and there was like that. I can't remember the name of their little club they had, but
I didn't know that.
it was.
Well, C.S. Lewis wrote some great stuff too.
I can't remember the third guy that was. I'm embarrassed now because I know this. But they had like a trio of writing. They all had that in common.
I believe it's called the Inklings.
Maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
This is news to me.
The question is, who's the third guy? Are you looking this up?
Anybody know?
Anybody?
Oh, hi. Somebody says hi. Hi. Okay, so what are we covering tonight?
Well, I guess I thought that we would I don't know. I thought we should talk about your journey. You had like this teeny tiny little job that probably nobody ever brings up, where you were a dancer with the Bolshoi.
Yes.
And
Well,
so,
it started before then. I mean, to
okay,
me, it was, well, of course I'm dancing with Bullshit. I was 9. I mean, I
okay,
make it clear I was not, part of the company. Um, it really started, well, the first thing I wanted to become was an archaeologist,
okay,
actually. I remember doing a report on it. And I still love, I mean, hence I'm writing historical novels. And I asked my poor husband, I bring home fossil impressions every day from the stream. Arkansas used to be a sea, totally under sea, and then it would go away and then it would come back. So I've got all kinds of invertebrate fossils
cool.
that I bring home. So I still do that. But at about probably 4 in Walnut Creek, California, we had a woodshed and I would perform for the Sandbox. And I was, by the way, rave reviews from every grain of sand. I mean, ta-da. But then I started dancing at 7, and at 9, when the Bolshoi came through, and I think it was their second time to the United States, not the first time. They auditioned hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children in San Francisco for this ballet they were doing called Ballet School, which started with the little ones, of which I was one, at the ballet bar, and then it would end with Maya Plesetskaya doing these incredible lifts and stuff as the prima ballerina that she was. So we did 3 performances at the Fox Theater. Most of the theaters that I have performed in are now torn down, and the Fox is one of them. But it was a magnificent old theater, and I got my Social Security card, because in those days, now I think you just get one.
Yeah.
But in those days, you had to actually have a job to get your
Oh.
Social Security card. So I became professional at the age of 9, sort of. So that's how it started. It was pretty cool. I still love that credit the most, just because the coolness factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw the Bolshoi of the Nutcracker, the Bolshoi Ballet of the Nutcracker in Chicago when I was probably
Oh my
close
God.
to 9. And it was like a life-changing experience for me as a kid. That was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
They tend to be, at least Maya Plesetskaya was quite athletic, and then the men were very athletic. In fact, I actually have a funny story telling myself. I don't know why we were on stage right. I remember we were on stage right, and they had the ballet mistress, and she was everything you would assume that a mistress would be, with the hair in the tight bun and the black dress and the thick-soled heeled shoes, but obviously was a dancer at some point. And she was herding us cats across the stage to stage left to get to wait we were going to wait before we could go on. And Maya Plesetskaya was alone on the stage, and the set at the very beginning was a ballet bar, and she was warming up. And she was wearing these really thick leg warmers. Well, I had never seen leg warmers before. And of course, the Russian winters, you can understand why they would have them. And I was dumbstruck, and I stopped, and the group kept going, and I stared, and I saw this smile. She put her head down, and I saw this little smile come up. She didn't say anything. Pretty soon the ballet mistress comes clomping back, takes me by the hand, and ushers me off. But I like to think that Maya Plesetskaya and I had a special moment there.
I'm willing to believe it.
I'm sure, but she didn't mention me in her autobiography, for some unknown reason. I was looking for it, and now she's passed. But she was remarkable.
That's great.
Cool story.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got so many stories. So then I just performed everywhere I could. I mean, I've had people say to me, well, you need to know somebody. I didn't know anybody, I mean, I did every school musical. I did every community theater that I got a role in. I played Louise in Carousel, got to do that wonderful dance on the beach. it was great. And each time, and this is kind of one of the things I want to impart to anybody out there that is interested, whether you're young or old, in getting into really anything. You just take advantage of every opportunity. And I just have always considered myself a plodder. I mean, I'm willing to put in the work and I'm willing to go one step at a time. Nothing has ever come like magically to me. Well, maybe the bullshit, but nothing really. I've just had to go one step at a time, and I don't mind the work. I don't mind the process, and for me, it's worked. And I know other people have gone much faster and farther, um, but I don't mind. I love the process.
So, out of all the roles that you've played and out of the things that you've done, what roles have stood out and why?
Um, Well, certainly doing a chorus line in LA. I joined, see, the show opened in New York in 1975, and I joined the show in LA. I had auditioned actually again in San Francisco because I grew up in the Bay Area. For they were casting the three different companies, the national company, the replacing some of the Broadway, and then the international company. And I really wanted the international company. And they even told me that day, out of, again, just cattle call, that I would probably go into the international company. And I was very excited. And then radio silence, nothing. And I, in the meantime, ended up moving back down to LA, a life change. And I moved to LA, and they were already there at the Schubert Theater in Century City, and they were holding some auditions for, understudies and whatever. And I went to the audition, and I said, I was told I was going to be in one of the companies, but I'm auditioning again, and if you have anything, I'd really like to do it. And they had us. It was not unlike the play, really. I mean, you had to step forward and do a double pirouette. I'm terrible at pirouettes. I'm sure I hopped out of it, but I did it. And then you had to sing, and I wasn't afraid to sing, so that was fine. And Michael Bennett and Bob Avian were in the back of the theater, just like Zach is in the play. And all of a sudden, Pat Driley, who was one of the stage managers, came out and said, "Lisa," and she said, "Mr. Bennett would like for you to understudy Maggie at the ballet." That's her song, at the ballet trio, but then she gets the big high note. And would you be willing to understudy until the role opens? Because Kate Cole, who originated the role, had come out with the company, so she was doing LA. And I did eventually, a few months later, take it over. And that was obviously special because Chorus Line was such a huge and hot show. I mean, just, you know, the Schubert was jammed every night. And I loved doing the show. I never got tired. I did 300 something performances of it by the time it was over. And I know people who did it for 10 years. I mean, I could have stayed with it. I could have made it a career. I could have been a contender, but was to put my name in for Broadway, and the next time it opened up, I would have gone. I just never wanted to go to New York. I had two opportunities to go to New York, and I don't know, never wanted to, so I didn't. I did the Broadway, the big, when we broke the record for a number of performances. It was that big gala, 1982, 3, something like that. And it was amazing because, Baryshnikov was in the audience, and we were on stage, just a couple of us for some reason. And all of a sudden the stage door opened, and it was Helen Hayes and Mildred Natwick.
Wow.
And Helen had come through Schubert Alley and had stepped on something, and her foot was bleeding. And I knelt at her feet, and other people were, we all knelt at her and talked to Helen and got her first aid. And I mean, that was the highlight for me. Forget the performance. It was Helen Hayes on stage. It was a remarkable, remarkable experience.
Oh my God. I'm awestruck at the moment, and that
Well,
is
see, you're a
that is
singer.
seldom.
See, you understand. See, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, Emily, did you perform too? I don't know.
Um, I mean, I did the usual high school stuff and a couple things in college. I always wanted to do more. I ended up kind of getting into costuming instead, and so I did a lot of theater as a costumer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was mostly in Wisconsin.
She actually has a really nice voice.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, we can do that trio we were talking about.
He like this is
We
an
got to do West Side Story. None of us are right for any of the roles, but it's our only chance. Because there's a place for us.
Oh,
Sorry.
that was great. This is an ongoing thing where Trey thinks I have a good voice and I don't sing. So
Find out.
It's-
Wait.
I'm too nervous to even get up and do karaoke by myself.
Oh, I think karaoke's terrifying.
Oh, okay.
I would do karaoke. No.
Maybe I would rather get up in front of a stadium of people and sing like the national anthem instead of karaoke.
Although I did the national anthem quite a few times.
Yeah.
I did the Lakers and the Dodgers and the LA Kings, the hockey, and which were on the ice. And I remember one at Anaheim Stadium for the Angels. And usually you do it out in the outfield, which there's, by the way, when you stand out in the outfield and you look at home plate, I have no idea how those guys can follow a hit ball. I mean, it is so far away, how they can track that. And then when the sun's, anyway, sidebar. But I got so nervous at home plate that my knees literally knocked. I didn't know that actually was a thing, but they do.
Wow.
They really were banging each other.
Wow.
Yeah, and I took Steven out a couple times when he was my son, our son, out in center field, and just because I wanted him to experience
Yeah.
it. And I would hold his, because I was on the air then, I was doing sports radio at that point, and I had hold his hand, and he said I would be fine at the beginning. By the time I got to and the Rockets' red glare, his hand was crushed. I was never aware of it, but he said it was all he could do to just not drink. He was crushing his hand. It is a little nerve-wracking.
I guess because I don't, I mean, I sing in like the car in the shower, but like, how do you, as a singer, if you're that nervous, how do you hold a note? How do you not crack and crumble these notes?
Well, I've done all of it. The thing about chorus line, you stand on the line. And I think about that when I make fun of football players for, missing a pass, or the quarterback for overthrowing or whatever. And I thought they are doing what we did in a chorus line. They put themselves on the line. Anytime you do anything live, you put yourself on the line. And
here we are. We're live.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah. But I mean, I'm talking about myself. That's
right,
a lot
of
easier
course.
than having to, be something else or sing or dance or whatever. And you have to be willing and have the courage to know that any of that could happen, any of it. And you have to know that, and they do too, and they're getting paid big bucks, and they've got millions watching as opposed to thousands. And everybody, now we've got social media and they get to hear what everybody thinks. Thank goodness we didn't have it when.
Right.
But when I went back, I'm now singing at my church. I cantor on Saturdays at St. Joseph in Tontitown. And I love it. But when I auditioned, okay.
They
Now,
made
Trey.
you audition?
Oh, gosh, yes. Well, listen, the voice was not real good at that point. Because at the ballet, you're pretty much belting. I always did the high note kind of a mix. I think Kay Cole was able to completely belt it. I had to mix it just a bit. But all the rest of the show is all kind of belty. And then, oh gosh, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. But I had to battle cancer twice, okay? So there was radiation, there was chemotherapy, there was no hair, There was, all of that stuff. And my voice was gone, but I just wanted to sing again. And Trey, I expect you to be singing again here soon. Yeah.
Duly noted.
I'm going to hound you because
Excellent.
it's a gift and you must use it. And so I thought I really wanted to sing, and I auditioned, and it was not real great. Now, to nerves, I was really nervous where the mouth goes dry,
Oh yeah.
and you can't get the words out and you can't hold anything. And I really embarrassed myself a number of times at church. I really did. And I considered quitting several times because I thought I can't do it to them, where they're nervous for me. And I was very embarrassed to say that, yeah, I'd been a professional singer, But I went back to the piano and I started bringing my head voice back down. You know what I mean, Trey?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than taking my and trying to mix it, I went the other way and brought it. And I got about 3.5 octaves back. Now, I don't want to sing a high A, you know what I'm saying, in performance or at church, but I can vocalize easily up there. So a lot of it's come back. But now I'm pretty confident when I sing at church. Pretty. You never know.
So then when you auditioned, did they say yes right away?
Yeah, they said yes, but I think they were desperate.
Oh no.
It's very possible, but it brings me great joy.
Good.
It really does.
Good.
I love doing it.
That's wonderful.
At some point in your life, or maybe along the way, you have to give back. Mm-hmm. And that can be more gratifying than, being in the spotlight, which is fun too. But to just say, this is not for myself, this is for them, this is for a higher power, that means something.
It does.
Would kind of like to add on to that, to kind of echo that sentiment of you really just have to get in there and you have to try. But speaking towards the nerves, I had a voice teacher that was kind of adamant about that if you were nervous, then you didn't know your work. And if you practiced and you really knew your work, you knew it inside out from everything backwards and forwards, that you wouldn't get nervous. And I agree with that sentiment to a degree.
Me too, to a degree.
When you are placed in a new setting, it is a new place, you're unfamiliar, you have new set of eyes looking at you all the time.
Yes.
So I think your preparation is absolutely part of it.
I sing every day. Yeah. But still, and when you don't, when you're not 24 anymore and your voice is not, the chords are a little drier, maybe thicker, I don't know what it is, and you don't know what they're going to do, I still can't hold a note. I don't know whether it's a result of radiation, but I really cannot. I have to breathe like twice in every phrase. I can't figure that out. And maybe, I don't know, Trey, maybe you have an idea what it is. I mean, I'm careful. I'm sitting up. I'm doing the back. I'm making sure I feel the back of my lungs. I'm doing the whole, I'm exercising the diaphragm. I'm doing everything that I know. But dang, I can't hold a note for very long.
It honestly, it could be a variety of things, and I could pull out my vocal pedagogy book somewhere, and we could probably help diagnose. But that is not this podcast, and I am not a licensed doctor for that.
But
So
I'm going to call you, okay?
Dr. Trey.
Hello, calling Dr. Trey. Yes, I'm here to diagnose your vocal conditions. How can I help you?
I'll take all the help I can get. I have no pride anymore.
But it's the other thing is to just start. If you're scared, what are you afraid of? Just start somewhere.
What's the worst that can happen? You make a fool of yourself. Well, okay, once you've done that,
I think that applies to a lot of things too, because I remember being new to retail in my first retail job, and I was like an introvert, and I was terrified of people, and I got to a point where I mastered it, and it was no big deal. And I remember getting asked, like, how do you do this? Like, how have you overcome this? Or why you seem like such a people person? And I realized that it was because it was my turf.
Mm.
And my turf, my retail stage for talking to people, was just familiar. So yeah, I knew my craft. I knew like what I was selling or ringing up or whatever it was I was doing, but also because that customer was coming to me. I wasn't going to a new store all the time so I wonder if that's part of it too.
I think trying to sell something, walking in cold. My father was actually sold to companies, but I can't do that.
I don't know if I could either.
Yeah.
My dad does that too, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how he does it.
No, I still, I certainly have extrovert parts of me, but I still consider myself an introvert in the sense that being around people exhausts me.
Mm.
I'd much rather be with one person and see. I know that there are people listening, but I'm just talking to you guys.
Yeah, it's just us.
Yeah.
That's how I get through it too. I'm sorry that none of you out there exist. At least not right now.
Radio.
And if you're listening right now, we love you. Please sponsor us at Please Sponsor Us. We love you at themodrom.com.
We do love you. Thank you. You know what? I want to say something. Today is our 1-year anniversary of our very first episode that we uploaded to Spotify.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We made it 1 year. And
I'm proud to be a little part of it. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah. We're very excited. Most podcasts don't last but a couple months, and so we're very fortunate. And
how'd you do it? I want to know, how'd you do it?
How did we do it? We love this.
It's the people.
Yeah.
I think we know, like, Emily and I can do a podcast, but like the podcast I think would be very different. But
I would be singing.
For me at least, and Emily, feel free to chime in. But I think as we've gone through with the podcast, the thing that's brought us back most often are the people that we get the opportunity to talk to. We have talked to an incredibly wide variety of people from a former like Broadway performer in that was with Chorus Line in LA, and all the way over to someone who is a world-renowned photographer, to someone who was a chef, to, I mean, literally anyone in between. And they all have such unique stories and unique opportunities to give insights to themselves. And those little nuggets of wisdom have been some of the most beautiful things that I think I have ever had the golden opportunity to listen to. So for me, it is what keeps me coming back are the people, and the amount of beauty for their art that they're bringing to the world.
Yeah.
Nicely said. Nicely said. And I loved your definition of modern romance, modern romantics, because it is so much more meaningful than, a bodice ripper. You know what I mean? I mean, this is really talking about high romance, the love of art, the critique of art, the literary arts, and that we do need more of.
And that's part of what I was starting this for. I wanted to uplift artists, and that romanticism was something that I've always been a romantic, but and with the pandemic it kind of people started to get back to that softer side of life. They're making their own bread. People started to learn to knit, and these were people that maybe never would have done those things, and I loved that. I thought that this is how it should be, and kind of went from there.
Yes, we can all be artists. Just create, and you can create however you choose to create. But I think no matter what, as stuff, as life goes on, sometimes that part of creativity is taken from you, and maybe you get part of it back, but maybe you don't get any of it back. But if you create, you make something that never existed before.
Right.
And what a gift. I mean, that's a tiny bit of what the great creator does. And he allows us to do these little things. And it fills you. I always feel like, when my soul is filled, that's when I'm happy. That's when I'm happy.
One of the more fulfilling things too, and this happened today. I was perusing Facebook, and one of our previous guests posted something, and I went to hit like, and I realized that another previous guest that would have no connection to that person had also liked that post. And I went, I love that this is happening. I love that it's kind of built a community to some degree.
Yeah. Well, now I feel connected to you two and your creative endeavors. And it just expands your world. I mean, the creative world is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sandra said, you also bring to an audience those who may not have had that wider voice. You introduce them and their art to so many people and cover such a diverse area of art.
Oh, she's such a sweetie. Well, last year, oh, Sandra, you'll have to correct me. It was last year or year before. I decided to try and teach people kind of a simplified version of one singular sensation, except she takes the one. Okay. Now, to me, I mean, the whole point of that number at the end, and not everybody gets it, is that after this rigorous audition, the number is stop, step, touch, 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 step, flick. Okay, so that's the whole point. That's why the number is not more complicated. And at some point, Michael Bennett even considered bringing somebody up from the audience and having everybody dance around them and show them how a star can stand there and go like this. And the dancers are, doing all this. That makes them look like a star. Okay, where was I going with this? Oh, I know. So I wanted to teach them. So I ended up at one of the local senior residences. And most of the people were there, and what a fabulous bunch of people they were. I mean, we had so much fun. I had no idea how difficult step touch was because I've been doing this since I was 7. And yeah, I can't do 2/3 of what I used to be able to do, but it's in my bones. It's in my muscle memory. And so to me, it's like, well, it's just step touch. No, you put your weight, here. And I realized, no, to somebody that hasn't done it, they worked so hard and they did so great. And I'm going to come up with another number for them here real soon. And I'm going to go back. And we had a cast party afterwards. And we were a cast. I mean, see, it's the same thing we've been talking about. You become a family. You create.
Exactly.
And I don't... It's also, I think, my co-host. If I'm going to really just schmooze this, I think it's my co-host Emily for getting a lot of this started.
Oh,
so
Hi, Emily.
Actually, and we had talked about doing a podcast for 8 years before we started one. And part of it was because the technical side of it kind of escaped me. And my friend Joe Capone, who used to be our moderator and producer, helped us get started. And I don't know if we would have a podcast quite like we do if it wasn't for him. So he was a big help, and he passed in June, and we miss him. But you know what? I love that he would be really proud of us, I think. I think he would love to see how far it's come and that we're still doing it. So, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of determination, and I'm a DIYer. Like, I will figure it out and I will make it happen because I believe in making things happen.
See, you don't mind the work either.
Right.
I've never been afraid to start something that I really know nothing about, and fail, because that's what you do. when you go into a new venture. But I mean, I couldn't dance my whole life after Chuck saw me in chorus line. Oh, okay. I have to tell you the Chuck story. And I get to tell it because when he tells it, I don't remember all those things. So it's my version. So he had come to see Chorus Line, and he was an associate producer on the Robert Conrad Baba Black Sheep, I believe, at that time.
Okay.
And he brought. Do you remember Gilligan's Island?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody, the redhead ginger.
Yeah.
Anyway, he brought her as a date, and I mean, I used to get love letters as Maggie because she was just sweet. She was just a sweet character, and he saw me and he decided to invite me in for a general casting call.
Was it
Now,
Tina
I'll tell you-
Louise? Sorry.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. It's very good. So he brought me in, and I never got a job, by the way, ever on his show. But he brought me in for a general interview, and it was really going well. I mean, we talked for like 40 minutes. And then here's where Chuck and I differ. He said, well, if you're ever on a lot, maybe we can have lunch. And I say, he asked me out to dinner. And I was incensed. By the way, I never faced the casting couch. That's as close as I ever came. I must have had no sex appeal whatsoever. But
Oh, no.
he said, it's so naive. We're not even going after her. So I marched out of the office. I said, whoa, gotta go. And I marched out, and he followed me. So I get a call from my agent the next day or so. And she says, Mr. Bowman would like to come see the show again and see you afterwards. And I said, no, he wants a date. I want a job. And she said, well, the typical, well, I don't know about typical, but agent-like, she said, well, dear, it couldn't hurt. And I said, okay, fine. So he waited for me. I'm always the last one out. I don't know why. I have to have everything exactly in the right place. So I was like the last person out. And we went up to Harry's Bar, which was a very upscale bar in Century City, right there in that complex. And we sat down. And he'll tell you this part. I went, don't do me any favors. I don't want to owe you. I have a boyfriend, and I'm leaving now. And I got up from the table. We'd ordered drinks, so he's throwing money down. He followed me out to my 62 Chevy Nova, which was parked across the street. And he said, but, no, gotta go, bye. So he took down my license plate.
What?
Now, today it would be stalking, but it really wasn't in those days. This is mid-70s. So he was a reserve sheriff. So he ran a make on my car.
Are you sure that's not stalking?
Well, and he sent me dozen roses and wrote a beautiful letter, which I kept for years. And then we had a big fight, and I threw it out, and I'd give anything to have it back. And he explained that he had 2 children, and he was not that kind of person. And could we be friends? So I wrote back and said, thank you very much. Yeah, we can be friends. So we'd go out to Baskin Robbins. We'd have a hamburger always in between shows. And in those days, in between shows, I would have hamburger with sour cream and mushrooms and onions, and milkshake. And we'd go, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
I'm like, that's a lot of dairy.
Oh my God, I can hardly do it. Oh my gosh. But I never put on, I weighed like 97 pounds. I mean, and it was sheer muscle because you're doing 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
Dancing through the whole show. So we would do that. Then the show went to Chicago. And I had a boyfriend who was also in show business. And things were just not going well. And I really didn't know what to do. And so I called him up. And in those days, it was person to person. We don't have that anymore, but
not the same.
Mr. Bowman, is he there? No, he's not there. Well, so he called me back later on that night, and we talked for like an hour and a half, and he gave me good advice. But that was the turning point because I thought, what an extraordinary man.
I do love his. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I do love his persistence. That is notable.
Yeah, yeah. So after I finally broke up with the other guy and I came back from Chicago, the first real date we had, he took me to see Lena Horne at the amphitheater. Yeah, that was a good
Cool.
one. Yeah, that was big brownie points.
Yeah.
So I still remember the white gown she had on. Ugh, magnificent. Yeah.
Fabulous.
So we've been married 43 years.
Congratulations.
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, yeah. He's a good man. He's a really good man. I lucked out.
And so who's your next boyfriend? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I'm way too tired for that. At some point you go, oh gosh. No, he's trained. I'll stay with him.
He's trained.
Actually, we over breakfast every morning, we sit there and just laugh. We have so much fun first thing in the morning.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we do. We do. So what you asked me parts of, okay, actually there are two more parts that were favorites. I really can do this. I really can. I did Sound of Music at the Dorothy Chandler,
Mm-hmm.
and I understudied. Oh no, she did. Okay, the TV show Brady Bunch. Was it Brady Bunch?
Okay.
Miss. Oh shoot, I'll come up with it. Anyway, I understood her as Maria, but Michael Kidd was the director, and Michael Kidd, he choreographed Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. He did. He was a fabulous choreographer and dancer, and just to work with him. So, but I also played Sister Margareta. How do you solve a problem like Maria?
Yeah.
Okay. And just doing that, and I actually got a good review with that smallish role. I actually got reviewed. That made me feel really. And we did that. I think we did that both in San Francisco and LA. And then my other favorite one was, and this was not a big production. It was out in San Bernardino, but it was with Gordon McRae, and the young people won't know him. But if anybody has seen the film of Oklahoma, he played Curly.
Okay.
And he did a lot of movies. Wonderful, wonderful baritone. And I played his daughter, and we had, one scene, just the two of us. And it was, I loved that role. I really, really loved that role. And to say that I worked with Gordon McRae was astounding.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little jealous, just like a little jealous.
I just hung in there.
I was watching for your reaction, Trey. I was like, saw an eyebrow twitch.
So with I know transitioning to doing radio and to like sports might have been kind of a change. Was it hard transitioning, and what was your experience like going into like sports broadcasting?
Well, I've always loved sports. That was natural. But I'm still not an encyclopedia. There are people that, can give you the year and what their batting average was, and it's just not the way I view sports. And actually, I had given birth, and 6 months after giving birth, I didn't want to travel anymore, being married and being a mom. And KABC Talk Radio, which was the Dodger flagship station at the time, and was the number one station in LA. It's not now, but they wanted to put a woman on their afternoon drive time. And so they decided to have a contest, and it was nationwide. And it was supposed to be just women, but the guy said, "We're going to sue you. You can't do that." So they opened it up, and they wanted a woman. So I did not win. I came in second, and the woman, I won't say her name, but she was from New York, and she was really expert in hockey, really, really expert. But she made a mistake, and she took on the general manager, called him a name, and announced she'd be going back to New York soon. And they said, "Why don't you get a head start?" And they let her go after 6 weeks. And they called me up and they said, "Are you still interested?" And I went, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And so I had a meeting with George Green, who actually, he's in his 90s now. And I talked to him just a few weeks ago, and he's still the same George. What a good general manager he was. And I took Stephen in his little carrier. He was 6 months old. And I said, "You have to know I have this." And George said, "That's okay." And I said, "It's going to limit, I can't stay for the games all the time." And I was still nursing, that dried up really fast once I got on the air because of the stress. So they hired me, but again, I knew nothing. They didn't give me any schooling. They literally just put me on the air.
Wow.
And I don't mind researching. So I'd be, find out who the guests were, and I'd be learning everything I could about them. But it was great. It was like being in a candy store. To say I know Tommy Lasorda, I knew Tommy Lasorda, I knew Vin Scully, I knew,
Wow.
all those people going down on the field. This is the era of Steve Yeager, Steve Sachs, and just missed, oh God. See, I can never remember, Steve Garvey, just missed him. But it was Jay Johnstone and Rick Monday, and just some really fine players. And so I was there for a number of years, and we broadcast from Dodger Stadium during the season. So we'd start, it was a 3-hour, 5-day-a-week show, and we'd start, and there'd be nobody in Dodger Stadium. And by the time we'd go off the air, it would be pretty well filled, and the whole excitement, and you could smell the hot dogs, and it was just a great experience. And then I went on and went to a couple other radio stations and came back to KBC after that, but did Dodger Talk. But I covered the Rams for one season, and I was one of the first females in the locker room.
Wow.
And all I could think of was, I'm a mother. Just don't, and I tried not to go in because there were a few guys, not many. But I remember one television broadcaster shielded me from a guy in the shower who was doing untoward things. So that I didn't see it. Yeah.
I was about to ask you what challenges you faced as a female in broadcasting, but yeah. I didn't expect that to maybe be an answer.
Yeah. There were people in the press box, which was really cool to be in the press box.
Yeah.
But they were writers, and they had wanted that job, and they were more qualified than I was. I wasn't going to argue with them. They truly were. But they hired me. What was I going to do? Say, "Oh no." No, they hired me, right. So I'm there. I did the best I could.
Sandra said she remembers the controversy over women in the locker rooms.
Oh, yeah. I really did try not to. I tried to get them after, but the thing was, after they'd been interviewed so many times in the locker room, by the time I got them, they just wanted to go home. And I needed a self-contained. It wasn't like I needed sound bites. I needed 2 to 3 minutes of one-on-one. And it was so bad, I just had to go in the locker room. Oh, well. Toughen up there, I just thought, can't you just put a towel on? Big deal. Just a little.
Things you can't unsee.
Yes, right. So it's okay. It wasn't like I was this anymore.
Who's the, I don't know, who are the two most notable people that you got to interview while you were sportscasting?
Wayne Gretzky, hockey legend. And funny story with him, it happened to be on April 1st, and we were in the locker room. He's getting ready to go out to practice. He's a very classy guy. And he was talking, he was kind of twirling his hockey stick, and he stopped it all of a sudden. He said, "Excuse me." And he went back out, and they had, as an April Fool's joke, they had cut his hockey stick so that the first time he took any kind of a shot, it would fly apart. But he caught it before he went out. So, I mean, that was really fun to
Wow.
be part of that. And then, well, the one that comes to mind is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Oh.
And I interviewed him, and he sat down, and I still had to hold the mic up. I mean, of course, I'm 5 feet, so, but he is tall,
Wow.
But one of my co-anchors was Tommy Hawkins, who played for the LA Lakers. And Bud Frillo, who was our veteran writer on the show, the radio show in KEBC, didn't really want me there. But Tommy and I became great, great dear friends. And I loved him. Sorry, he died a few years ago, and
Oh.
he just died in his sleep at 80. But he and I laughed and laughed, and we'd the show. We'd have like this bag of peanut M&Ms, and the show would start, and we'd be so high on sugar, and then by the third hour, I'm like dragging. But I became good friends with his mother, and we corresponded for a long time, and he's very special to me. So that was fun. Oh, now this was supposed to not happen. Okay, I'm turning it off. Hold on.
That's okay.
Okay, it won't happen. I know who it was. Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
Hi, Roger.
But that was great, and then I literally walked off a show. I was on Gabe Kaplan, Mr. Cotter. Welcome back, Mr. Cotter.
Yeah.
He and I were doing a two-person sports show called Sports Nuts on another station, and I realized Stephen, who is now in kindergarten, needed me. So I walked into the boss's office and I said, I got to go home. And he said, can we make it easier on you? Can you stay? I said, no, I got to go home. And I did. And that was it.
Wow.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I love that, though. Not everybody might have made that choice.
Yeah. For some reason, there was no question in my mind. I never regretted it. Florence Henderson, she was doing Maria.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sound of Music.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
was
yes.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, when
my
you
God.
said that, I was like, wait, that's Sound of
Couldn't
Music.
think of it.
Hold on. Okay. So you understudied for Florence Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
What?
I never went on, mind you, but and she got sick, but she was a trooper. That woman was tough. And I didn't blame her because they came to see her, not me. I got it, but that was fun. That was really fun.
Yeah.
I do have to ask, what was she like?
Was not what you thought. And I would see her. I saw her throughout the years off and on. She even came to Sportscasters sometimes. I ended up being elected president of the Sportscasters in LA. And she would come and she said, you didn't marry that conductor, did you? No, I didn't. She said, that one. But she was a tough lady, but she was a pro, a real pro. And I admired her. She wasn't cuddly, but that's okay. It's a tough business.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. Yeah. So until Stephen really graduated high school, I didn't perform at all. But he and I had a ball because Chuck was directing a lot, and he had always fly us to wherever he was directing. So, I mean, Stephen and I would go to Hawaii when he was doing Jake and the Fat Man. We went to North Carolina when he was doing something else. It was a great childhood for him, and I had a ball too. And Chuck was directing a lot, so Stephen and I had a lot of time. One of the parents just kind of had to be there,
Yeah.
and Chuck did as much as he could. But when you're working 15-hour days, it's just limited. So it wasn't until Stephen was much older that I kind of went back into singing. I did some cabaret stuff.
You did something else that's really cool in Hawaii, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Oh, coolness factor plus. Okay. So my college roommate from Occidental, now Occidental, then I went to UCLA, but then I didn't graduate because I was already getting work. I got my equity card at 19, so I just went ahead and worked. But she was in Hawaii, and she said, you know, they're doing an experiment with dolphins in Koalo Basin. And she said, I can, you know, maybe you could go. They need people to help do this. Yeah, yeah. So I went, I forget whether I went once or twice a week, and I would thaw out 20 pounds of silver smelt. And this was in the beginning stages of the experiment. It became much more sophisticated later, but I'm so thrilled that I was in there at the beginning because it was more one-on-one with the dolphins. And the pool came up to just about my waist, and I would have the fish in a bucket, and we were doing hand signals. You know, this meant that, that meant, you know, go get that, that meant the blue one, the red one, whatever. And Phoenix and Akea Kamai were the two dolphins. I know Akea Kamai is gone, probably Phoenix is too. But I would give these commands, and if they didn't get them, didn't do it correctly, the wasn't a punishment, but to let them know they hadn't done it correctly, we would just by the side just hold them for like count to 20 or whatever. And they would get really upset when they didn't do it correctly, but they were about 85% of the time at that point they did it correctly.
Wow.
And when it was over, then I kind of got in trouble because apparently I was a little bit flowery with the gestures. I remember the you know, the professor going, "You gotta just do this." I'm like, "Whoa, come to me, a dolphin," you know. So, but it was great fun, and we got to go swimming with them at the end. But they would get
Awesome.
they were teenagers at that point, and so they were very emotional, and it bothered them if they didn't do it right. We went back years later, and Stephen actually got to go, and they had built it all the way up and just had windows, and they were trying to use high-pitched sounds, you know, in the range of a dolphin to communicate with them and see if that worked. And I think they had limited success, but not great success. But what an experience.
Yeah.
Oh, I treasure that. Absolutely treasure it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And now all the other trainers had to be equally as flowery with their gestures in order to get the dolphins to do the same thing.
Yeah, we'd have a graduate student there, and he'd be taking notes as to whether, you know, whether they did it correctly or not. But I was there working with the dolphins. I mean,
That's
hey,
so amazing.
yeah.
And step toe, take off the hat.
So the Blaisdell, yeah, we were in Honolulu. Yeah, we did. I don't forget how long we were there, several months. That was fun too. But that was just like coming back to the show. I hadn't done the show in a while. It was just like, oh, going into slippers, you know, old worn slippers, because you knew the show so well.
Okay, so some of the other things, just to list this off, you have studied Shaolin Kempo for 13 years.
13 years, yeah.
You've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 4.
Mm-hmm.
You sung the national anthem at so many different venues. You've understudied for Florence Henderson. You studied with, you were part of a production with one of the original choreographers for Seven Brides for Seven Brothers. I feel like I asked this a lot, but what haven't you done?
Well, how successful have I been? Maybe the I certainly never became a star. I do everything that I want to, really, and with varying degrees of success. But it's like we talked about, I gotta create. I mean, I love history, so I started writing the books. I really started writing, and my first book is really bad, to be honest with you. I want to take it back and redo it, but it was. I didn't know what I was doing, and I'm better, but I don't know how great I am yet. But I got cancer in 2014, breast cancer, and we thought it was a one and done. So I did radiation and chemo. And 2018, it came back, and it came back more virulent. I can hardly say that word. And so they had to get more aggressive. And after that, they finally did a genetic test. And from one of my parents, I inherited the BRCA2, not BRCA1, BRCA2 gene mutation, which is not
Mhm.
quite as bad as the BRCA1. That the BRCA2 is mainly estrogen driven. So they have ripped out everything female from me. I mean, I have been cleaned out. And so hopefully they still have to watch for melanoma and pancreatic cancer, but I'm in good shape. I've been good since 2018. My hair's grown back, as you can tell, and
Good.
yeah. So
And
it's
looks
okay.
lovely, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. It came back a
Yes.
little bit curlier. I had blow dry it, but and yeah, it's not quite as thick, but I had so much hair to begin with. It's okay. I got plenty.
It's lovely.
Thank you.
And it's now for 10 seconds of fussing with their hair. So starting
Right.
now.
Okay.
We'll join
Okay.
you. We'll join you.
You
Yes.
should have seen me before the show, folks. I was going to wait. No, do I want this down? No, nothing like vanity.
So you spent quite a bit of time in Scotland though researching your newest
Yes,
book.
I did. Yeah, it was wonderful. We went to Dunfermline, which is where their castle was. And I actually, after I left Chorus Line, I have so many wonderful stories on myself. We left the show in Chicago. Okay, I was from the West Coast, hadn't done a lot of traveling, and I thought to myself, I am halfway to Europe. If I don't go to Europe, I'm a fool. So from Chicago, I flew to Great Britain, and I bummed around for a couple of weeks. And I met at a train station John Hewitt, because I couldn't understand, the Scottish brogue was so bad on the PA. I couldn't understand what they were saying. So we became longtime friends. I wrote to them for decades. Then when he passed, I wrote to his wife, Doris. And so when we went back to Scotland, I looked up their sons who I had met. One was already gone, but Colin and Alistair were still there. And so we got together, and Colin took us up to Dunfermline, and I researched at the library there in Edinburgh, and it was fantastic.
Sandra was asking, can you tell us who your historical novel is based on?
This is Queen Margaret of Scotland. Queen, and she's also a saint. Usually when I say Queen Margaret, they go, oh yes, Queen Mary. No, Queen Margaret married Malcolm III. And she is a saint. Would she be today? Probably not by the methods that they use today. They're a little more stringent about it. But she was a loving, very loving person, loved her children, and several of her children ascended to thrones and married people who were on thrones. And she had a large impact on Scotland. A lot of things in Scotland, in Edinburgh, are named after Queen Margaret. So it's really a trilogy. The first one is published. The second one is ready to be published. I just haven't done it. And the third one, I know where it's going because she dies at the end. But I haven't written it yet.
Spoiler alert.
I know. Spoiler alert. She didn't live forever. She's a fascinating person, and I love her a lot. So it's been a joy. And I've got several other books that I want to write, but now I've gotten involved in this documentary because I haven't done a documentary. So I need to do one.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Why
Right.
not? So the church that I cantor, or at which I cantor, St. Joseph, was founded by Pietro Bandini. And he was born in 1852, something like that. I should know that. But he first went to Montana as a missionary, and ended up being called back to Italy and defrocked for whatever he did in Montana. And then he went to New York and worked with the Italian immigrants there, was very vocal, very big advocate for them. Ended up in Tontitown, Arkansas, and founded the church at which I sing now. And the Italian, Tontitown is still largely Italian. but I decided because think about the assimilation that went on in Bandini's life. Number one, he had to assimilate to America.
Mhm.
Number two, he had to assimilate to the Native Americans there and kind of did forced assimilation on them. Then when he went to New York, he was working with the Italians there. And then in Arkansas, it was what you call cultural assimilation, a different kind of assimilation. And these people already had the same religion, they spoke the same language. They didn't, it's a much, much easier transition. And so in a couple weeks, I have the Crow historian from Montana flying out here, and we're going to interview him here
Cool.
and take him to the Trail of Tears up here, and just like Pea Ridge. And then in spring, I will go to Montana and get footage there and meet. He said his grandmother will talk to me, and he's given me, and I don't have it here, he's given me the book to read called The Stars We Know. If anybody's interested in the Crow Nation, read The Stars We Know.
Okay.
And it's about astronomy, astrology, but they focus their religion on the stars. And reading about it is just fascinating. That's my prep before I interview him. So I've applied for fiscal sponsorship, and I hope to get that so I can start applying for grants from the government.
Cool.
And there's Chuck. Hi, Chuck. He just walked by.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck. We should like clip this part and we can just like play that for him so he can see himself like walk by and just be like, "Hi, Chuck."
I
Yeah,
clipped
so
it. We're good.
Okay.
Oh,
The only other thing I've got going is that a week or two I start rehearsing with the university choir, one of the university choirs. They have many. Mozart's Requiem. So I'm going to be singing. Have you ever done that, Trey?
No.
I've never done it. I've
It's
never done it.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Fun fact, so in high school, I was part of, there's the AP classes you can take, and then at my high school, they had something called the International Baccalaureate. And for the capstone, whatever elective that you took, you had to write your thesis paper for that elective course. So many people chose psychology. I think one person chose physics. I was one of two people that did music. And I actually wrote my thesis paper on the Mozart Requiem.
What can you tell me something? Now, I know Mozart did not finish it.
Correct. It was actually it's an amalgamation of like his proteges. He finished up through the first 8 bars of Lacrimosa, like the.
Oh, I wondered where he stopped. Okay.
So first 8 bars of that, he had written down the orchestrations for it. So in technicality, there's so many people who love Lacrimosa, but he never finished it. It was actually the people who came after him. And the rumors go that it got handed off to these 2 or 3 ghost writers who got, a little bit of the ways through. And then a good chunk of it was actually from one of his Mozart's proteges, Süssmayr. And they believe that Süssmayr actually completed the entirety of the what we now consider to be the completed edition. But still, scholars go back and forth based on XYZ like notations and things. But long story short, there are many people who had a hand in writing Mozart's Requiem and for the tunes that we still love to this day.
Now, what I read, tell me if I'm correct, was that Mozart left copious notes about kind of what he was planning to do. But of course, that's not note for note. I mean, he didn't get that far.
Correct. He did leave notes, not a whole lot of details, but just some ideas of things. Probably I will have to go back and review the notes, but maybe like a few simple melodies here and there. But for the most part, you got it right.
Did he write the Dies Irae though? Is that before the Cremosa? I'm not sure.
Oh, you're really testing my knowledge on it. I love this.
I will know in a few weeks. I will know.
I think the Dies Irae comes before that. I think it's what leads into the Lacrimosa.
Okay.
one Google search, 1 second.
I'm curious. I really am, because that's so famous. It's been used in so many films. And man, those words are heavy duty.
Yeah.
Let's see. So no, it goes the introitus, Kyrie, then it's the dies irae, tuba mirum, rex tremende, recordare, confutatis, lacrimosa, Domine Iesu, ostias, sanctus benedictus agnus Dei, lux aeterna, cum sanctis tuis, and that's the finale.
That is what you call a high mass.
Yeah,
That is a long requiem mass. So you're saying you don't think he did do Dies Irae?
No, he definitely
He
did.
did. Okay, because it's long before that. Okay. Does anybody else know? Oh, sorry, Cisco Tranquil.
Are we summoning it? Yes, it is. I'm kidding.
Maybe. No.
Is it plain to see that I love the Mozart Requiem like a lot?
I'm glad I told you, but see, it's new to me. I'm not. These are fun.
Kaz said, "Awesome! I brought candles."
Oh, that's interesting. My family would say we were full Scottish when I was growing up. Thought that until I took a genetic test and found out I'm not Scottish, I'm Swedish. I actually have both in me, so maybe we're related. I don't know.
Could be.
The stars we know. Yeah, that's it. Astronomy and Lifeways. Yeah. It's not a thick book, but it's so new to me that I'm having to read it slowly.
Yeah. Timothy McCleary is who wrote it.
Yeah. That's a very Native American name.
He's also Scottish and Swedish. Sorry, Timothy.
We love you, Timothy.
Right.
Please sponsor us. We love you at DaveModRom.com.
Oh my gosh.
It made me really want to read this book. It's on
Yeah,
it's on Amazon for anybody who
Oh
wants
yeah.
That's the link we
That was
posted.
recommended to me by the Crow Nation, so
Cool.
I'm really excited about going there and seeing what assimilation did to them, what remnants of assimilation are still there, and they are. I literally read in today's or yesterday's Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette that a Montana state legislator is questioning whether we should still have reservations. So I mean, it's still, can you not? I mean, can we just leave them alone and
Right?
let them be who they are? I mean, yeah. So it still goes on. So that's what I want. He said this may not be flattering, and I said I want the truth, and I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see this documentary.
I think it's going to be good. And then the success at Tontitown totally flipped, and Tontitown is thriving and still Italian. I saw on Facebook they just made all the sausages by hand. They have this big
wow.
trough, and they're mixing up all the stuff, and the Italian traditions remain. They're not fully assimilated, and that they still maintain the traditions. So it'll be very interesting to compare and contrast. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So. I got nothing else.
Is the Queen Margaret of Scotland, is that a series then, or
It'll be a trilogy. Yeah, I
what I
really
thought.
need to publish the other. I wanted to get it traditionally published. You know what? That almost doesn't exist anymore, unless you're very famous author. But for somebody kind of starting out like me, it just kind of doesn't exist. The publishing world is in enough trouble, and they don't want to take a chance. So I think I'll do the trilogy and put it up on Amazon.
Good for you.
Yeah, I don't care.
Make it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, make it happen. I created something that didn't exist. There's very little on her. So, hey.
That's
maybe.
great. Well, and historical fiction is huge. I could see why
I love it.
that would be something that people would, want to buy up and read.
Yeah, I hope
Indie
so.
author. Yes.
Yes.
So you have.
It's
Oh, go ahead, Trey.
kind of a slight tangent, but I like to ask this question just kind of out of the blue when no one's expecting. Um, so really, it's evolved now into two questions. First, um, who is one person, dead or alive, that you would love to have lunch with?
Chuck and I do this all the time. Now, who was it? Well, definitely somebody historic. Oh, you know what? Let me ruminate on that because I'm thinking. Well, Margaret, I'd love to talk to Margaret. Um, People that have written, some of the philosophers. I mean, Maria Reiner, um, Teilhard, the some of the Catholic mystics I find very interesting, and the mystics tend to be very different from. God, we were just watching 1923, and I'm going, oh, I don't want to tell anybody I'm Catholic, where they're beating the
Oh, right.
poor girl. Oh, man. But the mystics, I think the mystics of all religions, um, the boundaries mesh because once you break out of rules and regulations and go to the heart of whether it's the Great Spirit or the Lord, I'm not saying no. And as a Christian, I believe Jesus and all that stuff, but I'm not going to go there. That's not what I'm talking about. Once you go to the heart of divinity, however you choose to do it, there starts to be an overlap because it's about love, it's about mercy, it's about not having to be the most important thing in the world. You are not. You are something small, but you get to partake of something that is eternal. And I think they that's why you get a lot of Catholic priests, I think, who end up, going into Buddhism an extracurricular thing, because there is something to be gotten. And hardline Catholics, sorry, but I just feel like there's a meeting place when mystics. So there's some of the mystics that I would just love to talk to. C.S. Lewis would be fascinating. I mean, we talked about him. I'd love to sit down and have Tommy Hawkins again. I'd love to talk to him again because I miss him so much. Some of my ancestors, I only knew one set of grandparents. I'd love to go back and meet some of the others. So maybe someday we'll find out. I don't know. I hope so.
My follow-up question is, you wake up one day and you find that you can literally sing anything. It doesn't matter if it's a role intended for a man, or it's a role intended for a woman, or it's one of those versatile roles that it kind of changes the meaning of the show depending on who plays it. What one role do you choose to play?
Mimi in La Boheme.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Just because, and I'm not that huge an opera buff, but I mean, Puccini is much more accessible. And I did do some of those. I did some opera when I was singing seriously in college, and some of that. So just not performing, but as art songs and as learning opera. And they always tried to put me in trouser roles, I guess, because I was small or something. But I wanted to do Mimi. That would be fun.
Do you have a favorite aria?
Probably the one "See Mi chiamano Mimi." Yeah, to where she's going to throw herself into the Arno if daddy doesn't let her marry him. I mean, drama for days.
For days.
Just normal things. I'm going to throw myself into this.
Yes. If you don't, I'm going to hold my breath until I turn blue and throw myself into the Arno.
Okay, I respect that choice. Very nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
Okay. Sounds like fun. I mean, I was going to say a musical theater thing, but if I could do anything, there were no limits. That would be wonderful. And you, Trey?
God.
I'm glad
knew this-
you beat me to it. That's great.
It's not so easy, is it?
Oh snap! What would I do? I'm really gonna have to ruminate on this. I'm sorry to steal your answer, but I'm gonna have to
No.
ruminate on this.
Okay. That's
when
fair.
when the possibilities are endless, it's hard to sometimes narrow it down. We'll wait.
It's okay.
This is really hard.
Do you want
I
us to come
think-
back to this, or can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna think on this. We'll come back to it.
No pressure. No pressure at all. So Lisa, with writing, what is part of the process that you get the most excited about? Like, is it going to Scotland and diving
I
into
love
the
to
culture?
travel.
Yeah.
Oh, I love to travel. I love research.
Yeah.
I love researching anything. If I had to describe myself, I would say curious. Everything but math. But history, I'll spend the day. I was fortunate enough to be a reader, which means a researcher, at the Huntington Library in LA. And you're supposed to have a doctorate to do that. And for some reason, they allowed me to do it for like a year and a half without a doctorate.
Cool.
But I would just go there and I'd wander the stacks and I'd bring all these books back out and I'd go through every single one of them. And it was heaven for me. And travel. Certainly I'm going to Italy actually in June. I've always wanted to go to the Palio in Siena, the horse race that's from medieval times. And I decided before I get any older, I'm going to go do that. And Stephen's going to meet me there. And we have a couple places we really like to go in Rome and Florence. And then I've got relatives in Lucca in Tuscany. So we'll go visit them. And it's lovely. Yeah, I'm actually, Stephen and I are in the process of getting our Italian citizenship, our dual citizenship.
Oh,
My
that is
grandfather,
amazing.
that's where the DiVida comes from. And
Do
so
you-
we've turned it in.
You speak Italian then?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I try every time I go, and then I come home and I stop trying, and then I lose it all. But I'm about to start trying again before I go in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But with the
amazing.
bloodline, you don't have to speak. If you don't have the bloodline, you have to learn it. So,
Interesting.
and my cousin in Lucca, she spent a number of years in Chicago when she was growing up, and so she loves it because she wants to speak English when we come. Well, I want to speak Italian, so, but it's easier to speak English, so she wins. But it's great fun to go visit them there.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
Make her a deal. Say, okay, we'll speak in English 50% of the time, and then 50% of the time we'll do Italian.
Yes, even if she just corrected my accent as I try to say it. I mean, forget the grammar. I mean, I'll never I can't do past tense. It's like anybody who comes, you hear a lot of people when they come here speaking from another language, they will speak everything in the present tense. It's because it's just easier. And you can make yourself understood even if you're speaking in the present tense.
I think the only reason I passed Italian is because I had taken Spanish for like 3 years, and then I took Italian because I was going into music school. So it was just a nice transition, and I think that's one of the only reasons that I passed that class, because it was just like, oh yeah, conjugation, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to, when I do Latin in church, I'm going, oh, okay, I see where that word came from. And so I would love to learn Latin. Of course, liturgical Latin is a little bit different than Latin, Roman Latin, but any of it. I would love to become proficient in any other language.
Okay, you saying that, I have my answer to the question.
Okay.
Cunegonde from Candide.
Oh, dun, 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 dun. Even with no inhibitions, I don't think I could ever sing that one. That is so coloratura. Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean,
What fun.
God, yes. Uh,
It's so funny.
Sidebar. My favorite performance of that is Kristen Chenoweth singing it with Patti LuPone playing the old Spanish woman. Um, it was recorded. It is available for purchase. You can buy it on DVD. Do not go pirate anything. But it is a marvelous, marvelous, marvelous performance. So please go watch
Huge
that.
fan. Kristen Chenoweth is amazing. What an instrument that woman has. And she's taken such good care of it. And she's like this thin, you know, but she has this incredible, incredible voice. She does at Christmas, because of her rendition of Mary Did You Know, I sang it at my church. And I mean, I don't think I came close to her, but she did such a beautiful job that I had to sing that song because she just gets the guts of a song and she just drives it. Great admiration for the woman.
She's someone I thought about emailing to see if she'd come on the show.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. And she's from Oklahoma, as I recall.
Oh.
She was adopted. So she doesn't really know, I don't think. Maybe she did finally find her parents. I don't know, but I don't think she knows where she got the talent. But what an instrument she has.
I think she's Scottish and Swedish too.
Everybody listening now, it doesn't matter where you're from, you are now Scottish.
Everyone.
Scottish and Swedish.
Welcome to the family.
No.
Real quick, we have someone in the chat I want to bring your attention to. Dance journalist friend says, so proud of you, baby sister. I can't believe after 50 years I'm still learning new things about you. And your version of Mary Did You Know was haunting.
Oh my gosh. Oh, how nice. Wait, that can't be Nina. Well, baby sister, that's probably Nina. Nina, if it's somebody else, it's Nina. Okay. Nina and I go back. I turned 21 with Nina in Las Vegas when we were doing Hello, Dolly.
Oh.
And she gave me, I was raised a Christian Scientist, so I never had any alcohol or anything. So she gave me my first drink. She totally corrupted me in so many ways. But we go back so far, and we did several shows together. We did Hello, Dolly, then we did Fiddler on the Roof at the Amundsen in LA, where we played the two little sisters. And that was great fun. So then she went on to become a newscaster, news anchor in Tucson, and then became a council person in Tucson, has her own PR firm. Anyway, so yeah, we've traveled together. She took me to Europe my first time.
That's fabulous.
Long way.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Nina and Stephen. Is this Stephen your son then?
Yes, where's Stephen? I don't see that.
It's
Steppy B.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Stephen. Hi, Stephen.
Hi,
Thank
Stephen.
you for tuning in. I told him he better.
I think Stephen and I have a weird thing in common, actually. Because when I was doing my research, I swear this wasn't stalking. I didn't run any license plates. But like, didn't you do this whole podcast took a turn, and I'm sorry. No, I'm scared. No, it's a reference from earlier. So like, you did some work somewhere along the line, maybe post-production on Outcast. Is that right?
Stephen? Oh, Stephen did.
Stephen did. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's a post-production producer.
The pilot. Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
so maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
So the show, the Outcast, the show was filmed in York and Rock Hill, South Carolina, and the costuming department. Emily's spilling all the secrets. The costume department, who is also Scottish and Swedish. Okay, I was working retail at the time, and they came to my store, and I helped them dress the minister, whose name I forget.
Stephen, who did that role? I don't know.
I don't know either, but
maybe he doesn't remember.
But so I got to watch the show and recognize everything that he wore, which was really cool.
Oh yeah. He's been very successful. I'm really proud of him. And he started at the bottom as well and worked his way up. And sometimes people, no, he started at the very bottom, as did Chuck's older son, who started in the mailroom and has gone on to direct one of the X-Files movies, and Reign of Fire, which is a kind of a
Cool.
cult film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that one.
So I mean, they've been very successful, but they've done it the long way. They put in the work. And they're both really, really good. And Karen was Chuck's daughter. His eldest was a sound editor. Am I right, Stephen? She was a sound editor. He's not there. So Scottish Swedish now. A Mod Rom T-shirt. I think we should.
We need
I'm
a
Scottish.
modern romantic T-shirt. We're all Scottish and Swedish.
She was okay. So Karen was an assistant editor and then a music editor. Okay, so
Okay.
all of Chuck's kids ended up in the business.
Cool. I can't. There's also a little delay too, so I know that.
Okay.
Like when we say something, they don't see it immediately, and so yeah, it takes a second
Stephen
to appear.
and I have had some great adventures. We've gone to Italy together before, and we have a ball. So I'm looking forward to this June thing.
Well, Italy's on our bucket list too.
Got to.
We might also have to do like a Mod Rom group trip.
Oh,
Yeah, and
please.
talk to me before you go. I can make
Okay.
some recommendations.
Sure. Yeah, because I've never been.
So on our list, we now have Iceland, Scotland,
Iceland,
Italy,
yes.
and then
Sweden.
we still. Oh, Sweden. Yes, Sweden.
The homeland, right?
And then at some point along this this international world tour of the Mod Rom, we need to find a castle for which to do the photo shoot.
Oh, there's so many in
Yeah.
Scotland. I mean, anywhere, but Scotland has some great ones. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of our original running ideas, was to somehow adopt a castle for a weekend and do like a whole gathering with photo shoots and horses, and because I do
Do it.
photography too. And Kaz in the chat makes horse armor, and Airbnb is your friend. Yes, I've heard this, which is exciting too. I like the idea of staying in like a house instead of a hotel.
Hmm. Yeah, we do Airbnbs. Yeah, it's better. Then you could cook
Yes.
too. Fun. Yeah.
One thing I do I would like to just kind of comment on is that I like that as busy as you were as a mom, you made it a very clear and present. You made yourself very clear and present for your children, and I think that now speaks highly of them. That your son is now here watching you and supporting you on this podcast here. So I would like to take a moment just to applaud you that as a working mom, it's clear you've done a very wonderful job. So
Well, thank you. Well, he's worth it, and he's pretty cool. Now I can look at, because he's my only blood child, and Karen and Rob are not that far off my age, but Stephen is very cool adult, and I can now sit here and just admire him as a person, which is wonderful. And he's got a great fiance. So, well, not formal fiance, but
Yeah, take the compliment, Stephen. Take it and run. We've got it recorded now too, so anytime
That's
you need
right.
that, we've got it for you. Even Nina
Stephen,
thinks
you're
you're
pretty-
cool. Yeah.
that's right. Actually, when Stephen turned 21, she took him to Vegas just for the tradition, because I was with her on my 21st. So she took him and gave him, well, it wasn't his first drink, but they had a good time too.
Well, Stephen, we'll ask you those stories later.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I got drunk with Nina."
Oh God.
oh jeez.
Oh,
Kaz said, as someone who just gave birth to my second little one, I'm inspired to be half the mom you are, Lisa.
oh heavens. Oh heavens. No. I mean, there's so many things I would do differently. And Stephen knows that. I've apologized to him for certain things that I really did wrong. But, an aunt, one of Chuck's aunts, actually said to me when I was pregnant, I said, I don't know I never babysat. I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't have a younger sister. And she said, as long as the child knows they're loved, it's going to be okay. And I do believe that. She was right. Anna Vesta, I miss you. I love you. Chuck has the best family. Oh, man. I am so lucky to be in his family. They're up in Coffeyville, Kansas. It's great.
And cause
they're in
I think.
Kansas?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, wow. All right.
Cause you're
he's,
gonna.
he's a Kansas boy. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Cause you're gonna be just fine.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Nina said, wouldn't we all on a second? Wouldn't we all? I think it's. Wouldn't we all on a second chance? But you.
On a second, yeah.
We are on. Oh, you're an amazing mom, and that's exactly it. Your love was everything.
Well, thank you, Nina. She knows way too much about me. She could blackmail me like you wouldn't believe.
Well, we'll have Nina on the show too then. I'm just kidding. I mean, if you want to come on, that's fine too.
How much can I tell?
Fun fact, Nina is also Scottish and Swedish.
Fun fact, right.
She's Russian. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what else did you guys want from me? I got nothing to offer.
Is there any advice that you would give, any creative advice you would give someone who wants to start out in anything that you've done?
Do it. I'm not saying you're going to be a success, because that we don't always have control over. If you're willing to do the work and you're willing to put yourself out there and make a fool of yourself and not care and do it because you love it. People will often ask, how do you do it? And I just say, well, actually, it's impossible. But if you love it enough, you do it. And that's, if nothing stops you, you will have a measure of success, because it cannot evade you if you keep going. So, and if it's something that you can't devote yourself to, then be creative another way. If something is taken from you, figure out another way to be creative. But if that creativity, that beauty is in you, as a photographer once said, when they said, why don't you do grittier pictures? And he said, why? Is there too much beauty in the world? And I ascribe to that. I mean, bring beauty to the world. There's plenty of ugliness and division, and bring harmony, bring mercy, bring love, bring beauty, and in your own little world. If it's never worldwide, okay, so who cares? Do it in your house, because it does change the world. Don't think you haven't made a big enough impact. It does change the world. I firmly believe that. And so go change your world, the world, anybody's world. But do it if you're creative. And know you have my love and support.
Absolutely.
You also have ours.
Yes.
Speaking as a podcast that was once just a couple of listeners has now turned into a podcast of many listeners. And so we all have to start from somewhere.
Yeah. And congratulations to you too.
Thank you.
You have created something wonderful.
Thank you.
Really have.
Lisa, before we end tonight's podcast, I do just want to ask, what are some ways that our listeners can get in contact with you or follow you for any updates about your second and third upcoming novels?
I do have lisadivida.com, a WordPress website. I'm on Facebook as Lisa DiVida and also as Lisa Bowman. So if I don't know you, I usually don't friend you. So say that you heard me on the podcast, okay? And then I'll know who you are, because that's good enough for me. But if you're way out of left field, I won't do it. So you can go to those places. I think I'm on Instagram as well as Lisa DiVida.
Yes. Yeah, you are.
Okay. You can tell I go on a lot.
It's there are dots between Lisa D and Vita.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah. For
you.
Instagram only. But yes.
Okay. that'd be great. I'd love to meet some of the people that that listen tonight.
Yeah. Kaz said she'll find you on Instagram.
Okay, cool.
And with every follow of Lisa DiVida, you are now Scottish and Swedish.
Which I actually
anyway.
am.
Welcome to the family.
Yes.
Lisa, from me, this has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much for being on tonight. Thank you for sharing your beauty with us. And this has been incredible.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you for asking me on. So happy to find this podcast, and I'd love to stay in touch with you guys, and we can compare our journeys. I'd love that.
Love that too. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we'd love to have you back on sometime with maybe your documentary or something, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Yeah, we'll work on something like that. We might be able to come up with something really interesting. Okay,
cool.
And Sandra too. I think Sandra, because she knew me. Sandra.
Yeah, I think she's still watching. So
is she? Okay. So thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. Well,
I love you guys already. Just after however long it's been.
Hour and 45.
Okay. Well, see.
Thank you. We love you too.
We love you too.
And Rick Fair, Fehr,
Who's Rick?
in the chat says hi, Lisa.
Rick, we got to be in touch more. We went to high school, junior high, together, and I miss you, Rick. I'd love to be in touch with you again.
Yes, be in touch with Lisa. This is amazing. And Sandra said she's still here. I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story.
Good.
Oh, he said first grade. That's amazing.
Oh, that's right.
Wow.
We do go back that far.
Oh my God.
Wait, first grade at Spring Hill? Okay, he's typing as fast as he can.
Kaz, I'm going to get you that info. Give me a second.
Okay.
She asked...
Yeah, Burton. I think it was Burton. That would have been 5th grade. Yeah, but that's a long time.
Well, oh my God. Well, hi, Rick. Super. Wow.
Bye, Rick.
No, but that's incredible. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as we close out tonight I was not expecting that, but
this is so
cool. As we close out tonight's episode, it is, like Emily brought up, it is our 1-year anniversary of being on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon. Thank you so much to everybody who's tuned in, our supporters, subscribers, our moderator, Josh, and our producer, Sandra. This episode, along with probably every single episode from here on out, is in memory of Joe Capone, our moderator, fellow comedian, critic, encourager, and fantastic friend. Find us pretty much where you can tune into podcasts for updates, announcements, and more. Please follow us on social media under Modern Romantic. Thank you, everybody. Have a Swedish day.
A Swedish day.
A Swedish day.
And don't forget to just do it.
Do it.
We love you. Bye.